fourth graders. We have been learning about slavery and the Civil War era, and today we're going to dive deeper into slavery and what it means to be set free and equal. We will first start out by watching a clip from the video Born Free and Equal.
Let us begin our meeting with the Declaration of Independence.
Good idea. Hear.
Wonderful.
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
Hi, honey. Did you come to help? That large man from Natick's drinking his ninth cup of punch. Lizzie, quiet. Well, what's more important? Us running out of punch and me getting in trouble, or some old words the master's saying? Old words? Do you know what those old words are about? I don't, Betty, but I have a feeling you're about to tell me. Little sister, those words are about freedom. You and me have been slaves since we were born. What do we know about freedom? Nothing, Missy. Nothing at all.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
But if someone offered me 1 minute's freedom and told me I had to die at the end of that minute, I'd take it. Just to stand 1 minute on God's earth, a free woman.
Alright, can anyone tell me what they think it means when she says to be a free woman? So once I discuss that with the class, we will then go into saying that I will read a book called Addie's Wedding Quilt. I will have the students pull out their iPads from underneath their desks. And once their iPads are pulled out, I will tell them, now we're about to read Addie's Wedding Quilt. I will read the first time and you will follow along. Addie's Wedding Quilt. Addie Walker sat on a small stool before the fireplace in Mom Dear's room, stitching together a quilt. The chill of evening draped over her back like a wet sheet. Shivering, she pulled her heart warmer closer around her shoulders. Though her back was freezing, she had to wipe away sweat that rolled down her brow. Her brother Sam always said that sitting in front of a fire was like being caught between two seasons. Summer was in your face, winter at your back. Addie said, when summer come, you ain't never ever going to hear me grumbling about it being too hot. Mama Dear was sitting in her high-back rocker with a shawl around her shoulder. Everything has its season, Addie, even the cold. Well, I can't wait for the season to be over. It never got this cold in North Carolina. I wish I could go to sleep tonight and wake up when it's summer. Now, be careful what you wish for. If you did that, you'd miss your folks' wedding next week. Would you want to do that? Asked Mama Dear. No, ma'am. I've been working too hard on this quilt. I hope they'll like it. I'm sure they will, said Mama Dear. Let me see. Mama Dear was blind, but she had her way of seeing. Running her long, thin fingers over the quilt squares, she nodded her approval. Your work is much better, Mama Dear observed. These new stitches are small and tight. Addie smiled. She had been sewing for weeks, ever since Mama and Papa had announced their wedding plans. They had wed 20 years earlier on Master Stephen's plantation, but they had not been married in a church. During slavery, that was against the law. Like many slaves, Mama and Papa married by simply jumping over the broom. Now I will finish reading that book. Once I have finished reading, I'll tell the students, now that I've finished reading, I want you to pull out your close read toolboxes from underneath your desks and pull out the close reading symbol instructions. And we'll go over them before we get started. So now that everybody has their symbols out, let's go over them. The star. This is an important detail or fact. So if you see an important detail or fact in the story, on the right side of your iPad, you will be able to see all of these symbols. And when you see the star, you click the star and you'll be able to place it exactly where you want. The next is when a word is important. So you're going to circle a word or a phrase if you see it important. Next is a question. If you have a question about a word or a question about a phrase, or if you don't understand a passage, put the question mark there and we'll go back and be able to discuss it. Next is the exclamation point. This is if you see something interesting or surprising that you hadn't heard about, or it just really shocked you and it was really cool. Next is a C. This is when you make a connection, whether it be a connection in the story between the beginning and the end, or a connection that you've learned in history and you are able to connect it to the book and understand why those things happen. And next is a heart. This is where you'll put it when you see a favorite part in the story, whether it's your favorite saying or your favorite passage. You'll be able to put a heart there, and then we can go back and discuss it. So now, using your close read symbols, I want you to read the book silently and mark up the book. That way we can go back and talk about it. So now that you have finished, I want you to put your close read toolbox back underneath your desk, but keep out your close reading symbol and your iPad. And I want you to save your close read on your iPad and then put it back on your desk. Now we're going to be moving into center rotations. Now I want you to pay attention because I'm going to go around each center and explain what you need to do. Center 1 is the Reading Response Center. Here you will use the computers to log into our classroom blog and answer a discussion question from the book by using what you've learned in social studies to be able to answer this question from the book. Center 2 is the Cut, Sort, and Paste Center. Here you will be given one activity sheet. At the bottom of the sheet you will see a cutout. These you'll be able to cut out as a dotted line. You're going to cut these out and then you're going to sort them in chronological order. And you're going to paste them on the chart. So here you'll paste what happened first, what happened second, and so on until you get to the end. And then once you get done with that, you will then pull out your reading notebooks and you will write it in chronological order. Now, Center 3 is a quilt center. Here you will be given one blank sheet of paper. So you can pick between these three quilts, and you will be given fabrics like fabrics to make quilts or construction paper with all different designs you can choose from. You'll also be given more designs. You'll be given magazine clips, and you will cut and glue those pieces onto your blank paper to create a quilt. So here's an example of mine. And now moving on to Center 4, this will be a close read discussion where I will be. Here you will need to bring your iPads and we will discuss the tools, the symbols that you used, and decide what was important, and we will discuss the story in more detail. So if you have questions about something that you saw in your story and you put in your close read, we'll be able to discuss that into more detail so you can better understand it. So I'll give the students at least 15 to 20 minutes in each station, and then we'll rotate. And once centers are over, I'll have the students report back to their desk. So now that you're back at your desk, do I have any volunteers to share their quilt and the meaning behind your design you chose? So I would do mine first. I would say, this is my quilt that I made for my grandfather. He's diagnosed with cancer, so this quilt he would be able to take to chemotherapy because it's really cold, and being sick he gets really cold easily. So this would be a quilt that would be very useful and purposeful for him. So now, do I have any volunteers that would like to share their quilt and who they made it for and the meaning behind it? And we would give the students a round of applause for the people who volunteered. And then at the end I would ask, do any volunteers like to share one new thing that they learned about slavery today, or something that they connected from history to the book, or from the book to what we've learned in social studies? And that would be the end of my lesson.